Hello again and welcome back to the Rare Record Room. Today I'm going to be looking at a rather valuable album from those most collectible of artists, the Beatles. The record in question being titled the Beatles Second Album. In particular, I'll look at the British Parlophone Records export pressing of this record, which was originally released by Capitol Records in America in 1964. The track selection and running order is exactly the same as the US Capitol release, and if you wish to get a little background of the songs and recording, this has been explored in a separate video of mine which you may wish to check out. In the mid-1960s through to the 1970s, EMI Parlophone and Apple Records produced a number of Beatles LPs for export, often to circumvent complex recording copyright issues in the country of destination, for example, where the Apple trademark was unregistered, whereas Parlophone was protected, or in European countries where a market for the Beatles Capitol LPs could be created, but importing those American records was problematic. The first three of these LPs to be made are known as Capitol editions, reproducing three standard American LPs, being the records Something New from 1965, followed by the Beatles Second Album and Beatles 6 in 1966. Dates are taken from the British Rare Record Price Guide. These have the prefix C-PCS, adding C for Capitol to the domestic prefix CPS, and were issued on the familiar British Parlophone black and yellow label design. All three were issued in stereo only, so no C-PMC mono versions exist. These were followed by export copies of the regular late 1960s UK records The White Album, Yellow Submarine, Abbey Road and Let It Be, which were assigned a P-PCS prefix, the P likely indicating Parlophone, much as the C stood for Capitol. There was also an unusual export version of Revolver in 1968 and the non-UK title Hey Jude in 1970. During 1969 and following the label format of the standard British home market pressings, these export Parlophone LPs were subsequently reissued with labels featuring a single boxed EMI logo. In 1970, the Beatles Second Album, incidentally the only one of these three exports, was further reissued featuring labels with two boxed EMI logos. Both the originals and the reissues are scarce and valuable. In the late 70s, a series of coloured vinyl Beatles LPs were also exported, but these are more common and not as expensive to obtain. The original export copy of the Beatles Second Album I have here has yellow and black Parlophone labels with lettering printed in silver, and there is an embossed KT tax code near the spindle hull indicating the amount of British purchase tax due on records, which would in fact have been irrelevant in the countries where the LP was intended for sale. It is issued under the catalogue number C-PCS 103. The rim text reads The Gramophone Company Limited in uppercase and is followed by an all rights reserved notice. At the foot of the label at the 6 o'clock position is the statement Made in Great Britain. A minor variation of the label has been recorded on which the songwriting credit for track 2 of side 1, Thank You Girl, is misprinted as McCarthy Lennon. Also, the recording date 1963 is positioned immediately below the matrix in brackets, whereas the other copy shows a distinct gap between the two. The large playing speed 33 1/3 is printed in a different typeface, with the 1/3 fraction having an oblique divider rather than a horizontal line. This particular misprinted copy does not have a tax code. The LP cover design is similar to the Capitol Records album art, but the construction is somewhat different. The export sleeve is the front laminated flipback style, stating patents pending on the lower flipback. Sleeves are printed and manufactured by Garrett & Lofthouse Limited. To the left of the printer's credit are the letters PL, possibly an abbreviation which I've yet to find a clear explanation for. The flipbacks have a rounded edge and the spine is pinched at the corners. The stereo wording on the front cover is in a small, solid black type. When compared to the original sleeve for the US Capitol edition, we can see the coloured inks and the sepia cover photos are significantly darker. A major difference between the two can be found on the rear sleeve, which advertised the previous Capitol LP Meet the Beatles. This advert was removed for the export pressings as Meet the Beatles would not be available for export by Parlophone and this could not be promoted. The inner sleeve is the British type, either a plain paper patents pending shaped bag or a company die-cut paper design printed with the standard use Emitex cleaning cloth instructions. These die-cut sleeves come with a clear tracing paper lining bag, which had recently replaced the EMI polythene lined paper sleeves. As mentioned at the top of the video, these export copies are rare and decent copies are particularly desirable and valuable. According to the current edition of the Rare Record Price Guide, fine examples of the exported first pressing of the Beatles' second album are valued at £450, which equates to around $620 at current rates, US dollars that is. The 1969 export reissue with one boxed EMI logo on the label is listed at £150, and the 1970 reissue with two boxed EMI logos on the label is listed at £100. And that just about brings to an end my brief look at the scarce British Parlophone export copy of the Beatles' second album. Thanks for your time, thanks for watching, hope to see you again, bye for now.